The great thing that we found is the company or individuals within the company on the project management side were delivering on those principles early on. It was just a matter of how do we remain consistent and even do better than what we were already doing, right? So how do we continue to grow and check those boxes as, we take on different types of projects and bring on new customers because we want that word of mouth. You get some good referrals when you do good things, but boy, bad news travels fast, right? So we want to make sure that we're getting the few referrals and not be part of the bad news. So we will make sure that we, address the client's needs. We listen, that's the big thing is just listening to what's important to that customer so we can deliver because customer A may not really value the same thing as customer B, but we need to make sure that we are delivering on what each customer values.
Have you ever wondered how successful architecture, engineering, and construction companies scale their business?
Or have you ever wanted guidance on how to get more growth, wealth, and freedom from your AEC company?
Well, then you're in luck. Hi, I'm Will Forat.
And I'm Justin Nagel, and we're your podcast hosts.
We interview successful AEC business leaders to learn how they use people, process, and technology to scale their businesses.
So sit back and get ready to learn from the industry's best. This is Building Scale.
Hey listeners, it's Will here. Our mission is to help the AEC industry protect itself by making technology easy. If you've ever listened to our show, then you know that the 3 pillars of scaling a business are people, process, and technology. So if you suspect technology is your weak link, then book a call with us to see where we can help maximize your company's IT and cybersecurity strategy. Just go to buildingscale.net/help.
Today's guests are Chad and Staci Hanna, owners of PBC Construction Group. PBC specializes in commercial construction, design, and development with a focus on restaurants, light industrial, retail, and site development. Known for delivering high-quality projects and on-time budgets, their reputation has been built on partnerships, transparent communication from kickoff through completion, a team-first mindset that prioritizes collaboration and long-term relationships. And today we're going to dig deep into leadership and how husband and wife owners operate just across the board, building culture in a competitive construction market, and then what it takes to evolve a legacy company while staying true to your core values while also pushing towards the future. And with all that said, Chad, Staci, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Justin. Good to be here.
Yes. So
that seemed like a lot.
Yeah.
You do it. I don't do it. You're the one doing a lot. I'm just over here reading stuff. So tell us the origin story. So tell us a little bit more about your background, how you got in the space, and then tell us more and more about PBC.
Yeah, we both had different backgrounds coming into this opportunity. I spent first part of my career in outside sales, business development, and worked for a competitive local exchange company, doing door-to-door, selling the local long-distance stuff, really slinging it back in the day.
Real deal. Door-to-door sales is no
real
joke.
Deal, yeah.
Anybody that does that, I'm always cap off to you. That's the best.
Yeah, thanks. There was a lot of no's back in the day, but you know what they say, the next yes is right around the corner.
Yes, exactly.
From there, worked for a company called Monster.com, which spent the better part of 20 years there in different functions. And then Staci and I were coming right out of the epidemic, and we were on vacation from the epidemic and got a phone call about the opportunity and the kind of rest was history. But I'll let Staci tell you a little bit about her background as well.
Yeah, I've got a varied background, a little bit in enough things to be dangerous for the position that I sit in now. I've been in sales and marketing. I've done project management and IT project management. And then my last stint, I was at a company and did diagnostic training. So my team, trained, like during the pandemic, my team trained all the instruments that they used to do the testing. So I used to always joke, I surrounded myself with great people. I can barely spell science, but they were the ones that did it. So I think that having that mindset and being able to manage people that are smarter than you and know what they're doing, and just giving them the things that they need have been a helpful, springboard for getting me into this role.
Very kindred souls we are, because I'm also one that knows very little about things, but I know how to get people excited about stuff. So
Sure.
That's a huge skill set. At least that's what I keep telling Will. Yeah. So tell us about the business, though. Tell us about PBC.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've already learned just after those intros who the real brains behind the operation is around here. I'm just the one that is the cheerleader walking around trying to keep people going.
The pretty face.
No, thanks. No, we're a commercial construction company, contracting company. We've been around for over 40 years. The company really got its start years ago working on small little projects in the quick service space, so quick service restaurants, QSRs. You know, your big names, McDonald's, Wendy's, Taco Bell's. Back then it was Hardee's, you know, so that's how the company got its start, doing projects like that, and then it evolved over the years. You know, from your intro, yes, we do anything from soup to nuts through that construction life cycle. So we like to be involved in the pre-construction side. From a partner standpoint, we really believe that allows us to get in, develop that relationship or partnership with our customer, knowing exactly what their expectations are, you know, being in sync with the architects, the engineers. So we're all kind of singing the same hymn. And then when we get to that construction phase, it's easy, you know, so the hard part's up front. Construction part is actually easy.
You mentioned the hard part. One might suggest purchasing a construction business when you weren't normally in the construction, or you weren't historically in the construction industry. I'm still baffled, especially because you guys have grown and it's been amazing, and it's this beautiful story that they'll tell on Netflix one day and it'll be awesome. But why did you decide, hey, you know what? Let's buy a construction company?
Yeah, there was a lot of things that went into play. And like I said earlier, Staci and I were on a little vacation. Our previous employers, we had a real luxury of being able to travel and work from anywhere at that point.
It's awesome.
So we were on a trip, we were working, but also, you know, taking some personal time while we were there. We're contacted by a few friends who asked if we wanted to be business partners. And when they said business partners, they said, you're going to, you know, one day, you know, run this thing for us. And I said, okay, well, great. What is it? So they outlined kind of the opportunity to us, what they were looking to accomplish and kind of what their thoughts were. Staci and I just said, hey, you know, we got to think about it. You know, it all sounds great. You know, we spent years and years and years in corporate America. There were great things about working in corporate America, and there were a lot of lessons learned and what we're trying to apply today that maybe we didn't care for as much in corporate America. So we thought through all of that, did the analysis of the business opportunity, and really saw that, you know, we were buying a business with a great name, great legacy behind it, that just hadn't really had a lot of love and direction put into it in the previous, you know, 5 years from when we bought it. And so we saw great opportunity to expand that, you know, the growth of the company, you know, the types of businesses that we could touch and work with. So yeah, I mean, it was kind of a leap of faith. It was one of those things where, you know, you've got that steady corporate job that you've been performing year in and year out on, but you just want a little more, and you see an opportunity to help people and, you know, really help them grow as individuals. That's been the thing for us. I mean, you know, Staci would be the first to tell you that, you know, I was a leader in the past at Monster specifically, and whoever watches this video will probably laugh. I'm admitting that I was not a very good leader. I learned a lot. You know, I probably was put into a leadership role too early. I needed to probably sit and be mentored a little bit more. But, you know, since that first little hiccup, things kind of picked up, and I've had some good mentors that have helped me along the way. Staci being one of them. She knows how to keep me in check and make sure I'm pointed the right direction.
So, not coming from construction backgrounds, buying a construction-based business, why don't we start with, after the signed on the dotted line, closed the deal, and finally got access to the people, culture, what was not written in paper, or what was the thing that surprised you the most?
The paper. So there was a lot of paper around here. So, I mean, you've got a company that's been operating the same way for several years, not using really any new tools or software that, you know, the 2020s had to offer. So basically looking at the company, you know, the eye-opening part was, hey, you know, we've got a lot of opportunity to become more efficient, more streamlined in the way that we approach things. You know, the other thing we didn't have a lot of access to early on was the people, you know, because previous owner, he was trying to keep things under wraps, and we wanted to respect that as much as we could. So when we first sat down with the team and got to know them, we got a lot of great people, and that's the building blocks of why the company was so good for so long, and so consistent in what they were doing. The core values that they had lived for years are core values that we carry on today. I feel that today we're stronger at those just because we're all singing the same hymn. We're focused on driving the business forward. We want to make sure that we take care of the relationships that we've got, and the skill set of the people that we have here is incredible. And that's where our lack is our construction skill set. But, I've heard and also said it along the way is I don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. I've got people around me that can go into the meetings and talk the talk. Staci and I, our biggest job is making sure we just eliminate the roadblocks and point the people in the right direction and hope that they follow, and they are following and leading now, which is great.
When you first started, you didn't know anything. How did you learn the business? There are obvious improvements, paper to digital, but then there's knowing and understanding the actual inner workings of the business to be able to improve on process. Staci, my understanding is that you're the one that kind of more ran into the role of operations since you've got project management experience. Can you talk to us a little bit about what this looked like? How did you guys learn, and how much did you have to learn?
So I would say we probably sat and listened a lot the first 6 to 8 months, asked a lot of questions. We did a lot of timeouts. Can you explain that to us? Like we're 5-year-olds, take it back to the basics, take out all the acronyms. Like we need all the names of all the things. So we were also fortunate. One of the guys that worked for us that's been integral to us moving the business forward had outlined his project management process to begin with. So that gave us a great start that we could, always kind of go back and go, okay, this is where we're at in the process, or this is what's coming, or, this is how accounting kind of overlaps into this. So that was extremely helpful. But yeah, I just think sitting and knowing, from the beginning, we were upfront with them. Like we had no experience with this. They were going to have to be the ones that trained us. So I think, empowering them to continue to make some decisions and supporting them and just trying to figure out, okay, if these things move forward in the future, how can we be more helpful? How can we eliminate roadblocks? What are the things that we need to line up on our end to enable them to be more efficient?
So when you walk in, and all these people that have been doing this job for 40 years or 30 years or however long they've been there, what was the pushback like? That, like you two know about running a construction company. We are been doing this our whole lives. Like, was there a culture shock to that idea?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the important thing that we did early on is we got two of the main individuals that handled most of our projects from a project management perspective. One gentleman who's been here, over 40 years now, and the other one that's got, tremendous experience in the industry, but yet he's also been here several years. We got them on board with what our vision was and where we wanted to take the company, how we wanted to run things, and how we wanted to invest in the people here. Doing that trickled down very quickly because there were a lot of questions from the guys in the field, like, who are these people that just bought this company? Am I getting paid next week? Legitimate concerns because they don't know, us from Adam. But I think getting those two guys on board and the impact that, the respect they had of everybody in the field, that helped. Office wise, the previous owner's daughter still works for us today. She's in our accounting department. So office wise, she kind of managed that. So having those key individuals on board, understanding what we were trying to do, having them talk to the rest of the team, even on our behalf to say, listen, we like what they say. We like where they're going to take things. We're staying. We're not going anywhere. We're not jumping ship. That helped keep the nucleus together. And that gave us an opportunity to prove ourselves and deliver on what we said we were going to do.
So when you first got in, were you trying to make changes right away, or were you like, let's figure this business out, or something in between?
Yes. No.
Everybody wants to jump in and do something, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, it's a new toy. You got to,
Yeah.
you're not. It's Christmas. You can't not play with your toys.
Right. That's right. I think it was a little bit of both. We obviously needed to get our arms around from the process and understanding the business and how the daily operations work. So that took obviously a lot longer to meddle in, I would say, and put our thumbprint on. Where we were able to jump right in is the investment in the people. Expanding benefits, expanding, some paid time off, kind of restructuring some things that way that gave them more time to be with their families, to spend, that work-life balance, so to speak, outside of this work. I mean, you're working with a lot of people that put in a lot of years and they're, I hate to say it, they're old school guys and gals that roll up their sleeves and work, and that's what we love about them. And we wanted to recognize that and right off the, bat and let them know how much we appreciate what they've put into the company. And we want them to stay with us as long as they want to still be here. So, so investing in the people, I think, is the first thing we were able to do. And then longer term, we've started to tinker with process, responsibilities. We've talked previously. I know you guys are heavily invested in EOS as well. We brought EOS to the table. Staci and I kind of had the mindset of what we wanted to do and then got introduced to EOS and just in a conversation with a friend. And that friend is like, you're thinking like EOS, but you need someone to help you implement it. And so we met with a few people back then, found the perfect implementer for us. And it's just taken off like a rocket ship since doing that.
Rocket fuel. So
rocket fuel. Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Just for sake of clarity, who's the visionary, and who's the integrator in the husband-wife combo? Or is it someone else altogether?
Right now, the visionary. I've got, all the ideas and I get told no a lot, or at least not yet. Yeah. So, and the entire team does a good job, especially those key folks that have been here for many years. They're like, whoa, guy, you're don't jump too far ahead. But Staci, her strengths, she's the integrator. She's got the process. She's the glue, that holds this all together.
So Staci, I'm going to ask you something because, being new ownership and new structure, and really my understanding is it was a single owner and now you're essentially splitting the roles into two. Were there things, expectations or permissions that you had to give your people to be able to interact with you so that they didn't feel like they were tiptoeing?
I think that happened early on, and especially when it came to day-to-day stuff like accounting, like benefits and things like that. I didn't know enough at that time about how things had been set up to come in and really take things over. I think there's a lot of things we can come in and just having a business background, you can make some impact, right? So I looked at things from a marketing perspective and it was like, how can we change the website? Like we need to get into the, this century with that. How can we start getting our name out there? Let's give everybody in the field a shirt and put our logo on it, right? Like these are marketing opportunities we're not taking advantage of. And so that kind of got us moving things in the right direction and showing them that we were going to roll up our sleeves and get dirty and, kind of move things forward without really impacting their lives. And so I really just asked for a lot of like, hey, as you're doing something in HR, it's time to do benefits or you're enrolling a new, bring me along for the ride, right? Like show me what you're doing, because it seemed like when we took over, a lot of people had a lot on their plates. And, just coming from a background in corporate America where you always have 3 different hats on and way too much on your plate, it was really important to us to figure out, is everybody doing just the things that they should be doing? Or how can we alleviate, how could I alleviate, HR things, functions, duties, those kind of things from our person that's doing accounting so she can focus on doing accounting in a really good way and billing and invoicing and all of those things that we need, right? So, but we can't do that until we learn. So at the beginning, it was a lot of just bring us along for the ride, tell us where you have challenges, tell us where we could potentially help or something that you're working on that you hate to do, right? Like I'll take the thing you hate to do and try to fix it, right? How do we make it better? And I think just kind of taking little pieces at a time, helped. But I think there was a lot of that in the beginning where they're like, well, I don't know if you want to do this now or you want me to do it. I'm like, I don't know how to do it. So let me watch you do it and we'll see where it makes sense down the road.
So since you were watching a lot, were there, we'll call it industry norms that you questioned? Were there any industry norms that you questioned?
I think not anything about construction. I didn't know enough about construction to question any of that. To me, like Chad said, the paper, it was, we went through a lot of paper, and I'm like, I work for organizations now where it was like, don't print if you don't have to, right? Like they're counting the sheets of paper that you're printing every day, and there's needs and necessities for doing that. And there's workflows, but just little things like that made me question, but it was more from a business operational standpoint, not necessarily the construction standpoint. So, yeah.
Okay. So you were homeowners for a while before, getting to the construction, before essentially purchasing a construction company. So did that shape or change how you guys do things today because you were on the receiving end of essentially, working with with a GC, with a construction company? Or how has it changed, if anything?
Say the last person you want to go through a final punch list walkthrough is Chad. He will nitpick
Yeah.
everything.
Blue tape everywhere.
Yeah. The OCD is just outrageous. Yeah. I mean, even to this day, I walk into a job site and it's, I see little things, right? So yeah, I mean, it has shaped, kind of how we look at things and how our teams look at things from a quality perspective and how we address things from a quality perspective. Yeah, it's it's one of those where some of our experiences being homeowners, working with contractors that, don't communicate well, don't show up when they say they're supposed to show up, and don't do a very good job. Those were things that really irked us. They do everything in the world to get your business, but at the end of the day, they don't deliver on the promise. And so that's what we wanted to make sure we brought along with us is we don't want our customers to feel that way in the slightest. We want them to understand that we've got their back. We're in this together and we're going to make it right, no matter what. So we're going to deliver on what we promised to deliver. We're going to make sure that we're communicating with you. You get those updates on a consistent basis. Those are all things that hurt us. And just as being homeowners, and that we wanted to carry into the business. The great thing that we found is the company or individuals within the company on the project management side were delivering on those principles early on. It was just a matter of how do we remain consistent and even do better than what we were already doing, right? So how do we continue to grow and check those boxes as, we take on different types of projects and bring on new customers because we want that word of mouth. You get some good referrals when you do good things, but boy, bad news travels fast, right? So we want to make sure that we're getting the few referrals and not be part of the bad news. So we will make sure that we, address the client's needs. We listen, that's the big thing is just listening to what's important to that customer so we can deliver because customer A may not really value the same thing as customer B, but we need to make sure that we are delivering on what each customer values.
So communication.
Yeah.
That brings up you mentioned values. You also said that your core values, like you've been able to strengthen those, right? So like that's a culture builder across the board and it showcases to the referral, right? So if you do great work as your point and your core values align with whoever that client is, they generally want to work with you more. Like that's just how it works. So how have you been able to emphasize those core values in the business?
You kind of cut out there. I missed you.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Your core values. How have you been able to emphasize those? Like, how have you been able to strengthen those as you've been growing the business?
Yeah, I mean, we live them every day, and being involved in EOS, that we do our quarterly pulses and updates and check-ins with the team. So we tell the stories around who's living those core values, and inevitably you see people wanting to have their name mentioned. They wanted to be recognized. They may be living those core values, but they are stepping up and going even further above and beyond of what they have done. We're very quality driven. We want to make sure that we're delivering a quality product to the customer, and we check that quality throughout. It's inevitable in every construction project. You're going to have an issue here and there. It's how quickly you address it. And for us, it's important to address it before the customer even comes on site and sees it. So, because that's in their mind all the way through the end. Well, there was an issue. I was here. Is it here the next time I show up to do a site visit and so forth? So we're very proactive in that. The guys and gals that work here take pride in that. We're relationship focused. As I've talked about, we want to make sure we build a strong relationship with folks and understand, what they're looking for and what makes them tick. And that's not only just our customers, that's with our subcontractors, that's with our suppliers, that's here in the office, just working together. And then based on what we've got here, as far as we've got proven experience and knowledge, so we've got folks that have not only been doing what we've been doing for 40 plus years, but we've got people who have experience in larger type of commercial projects, the industrial side of business. They've worked on the historical side and restoration. We've got experience kind of all over the place. We've got multi-tenant residential. What we are trying to do is to slowly evolve or grow to match the potential of our team, because our team has all of this experience and knowledge, but the focus for so many years was just right here in this little window. So that gives us a lot of opportunity for growth. Kind of as we talked previously, it's a tricky thing. You got to make sure you manage that growth and you don't grow too fast because sometimes that can have a negative impact.
Sounds like you're speaking out of experience. What is there such a thing as too fast growth?
Yeah, we experienced it last year. Yeah, just pour
It's
a little
fresh.
more salt in there. Well, yeah, I appreciate that.
I feel like that's the only time we can poke a scar, right? Like, hey, growing, that's just fun. That's fun pain.
It is fun pain, but it always comes at a cost, right? So, I mean, we learned a lot about ourselves last year. We experienced incredible growth. We grew 64% year over year, which is tremendous.
Huge.
Yeah. But it severely impacted the team, at least a couple of members of the team. We took on some business at the end of the year that we probably should have walked away from. But we've learned that lesson. We understand kind of the ramifications of, doing those types of things. The leadership team needs to do a better job of making sure we're checking ourselves and making sure we have the resources to do the work, so we're not overloading the team. And that's where we ended up last year. And the bad part was it was a lot of work that only moved the needle a little bit, but we were doing it for a long-term customer, and we would probably still do that work, but we would make sure the resources are there, and eat into the profit a little bit just to make it better on the team.
So you're saying, you're essentially saying the growth that you experienced wasn't backed by all the resources that you needed. Was that just experience of not knowing that you needed all those resources?
I think some of the growth came at us quicker than what we expected. Word got out on some new customers about what we were doing and how we did our business. And that helped us grow very quickly, right? And then we had some opportunity come in that we weren't expecting, but it was for a long-term customer that we weren't going to leave them in the wind. We wanted to make sure to take care of them. We've got a great partnership with them. And I think that had we been forecasting some of this opportunity a little bit better, it would have given us more insight that we needed some additional resources to support it. We were able to do it and get it done. But at the same time, again, it had an impact on the team.
Was it impact that you saw sort of vicariously by observing, or did people come up to you and tell you certain things?
Yes.
All of the above.
Again, it's like, the answers to these. No. It's you can see the frustration in some of the team members, having to deal with certain things on a daily basis, and trying to talk through with them, support them in any way that we could, and it's Staci and I volunteering to, run materials if we need to run materials, if we need to be on site to meet with a customer because we've got multiple projects going and we don't have anybody to be there, we will go do it, so it's rolling up our sleeves and doing whatever we need to do to support them. So that was, kind of in your face. And then you do hear comments from others like, hey, is he going to be all right? Or is she going to be all right? I sense something's going on. Yeah, it's just conversations through that to say, making sure the team's aware. And we have regular updates, across the company. So everybody kind of knows what's going on. And that's allowing other folks to say, hey, I've got some free time on my plate. I raise my hand. I'm willing to help and do whatever it takes, no matter how small or big that it is. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And that's the great part about the team here. We talk about it. Everybody knows what's going on. How can we support, this guy or gal, depending on what they're going through? And this team does a very good job of coming together and doing that.
So now that you know what unhealthy growth looks like, what do you think healthy growth should be?
Yeah, healthy growth definitely needs to be a little more planned and forecasted. We need to make sure we have the right resources aligned at the appropriate times. We learned a lot with that this past year, and there's, you kind of said it earlier, Justin, when we were talking about, the core values. We've got our core values, and we want to work with customers to share those core values. I think we also learned last year that there are probably people we don't want to work with anymore, and just the way that they approach their core values or lack thereof. So it's a business choice for us. We want to work with good people and people that share our values. And so we're not for everybody, and not everybody is for us. So making sure we make those decisions and not focus on, the growth, have a forecasted growth where we want to be, what we're comfortable with, and not try to blow that number out just to blow the number out.
Okay. So, and if you, just to put you on the spot, 64% unhealthy growth, right?
Yeah.
What's the percentage range that you would consider healthy then?
We want to go anywhere between 15 and 20%. We can live with that very easily. And it's just stair stepping, right? So there's also multiple ways to do that, based on our skill set. So we've learned quite quickly that based on the typical projects that we do, and I'm just going to kind of relate it to a business development term, we're transactional, right? So we do a lot of different projects, varying from anywhere from, 2 weeks upwards to, 180 days, type of thing. We've got skill set around here that we can run larger projects that last 180 plus, and you can exponentially grow without having to grow that much more on the resource side. It's just making sure that you've got the resources aligned with the appropriate role, responsibility, and customer, right? So that's kind of been our plan going into 26, is understanding where we want to focus, what are our limits or our ceilings, I guess, in certain projects, and how do we grow more responsibly to meet what our resources are now, and then slowly how we add to the team. Because we're just not going to add to the team to add to the team. It's got to be the right person, and they got to be in the right seat. So we go through a lot to make sure that we're bringing in the right person that shares those core values and will live those core values with us on a daily basis. But we got to make sure they're in the right seat, right? And they're doing the right things.
What attracts new talent to y'all, or what retains the great talent that you have?
And so in retaining the team that we've got, I think the only folks that we lost, they still have to correct me, are to retirement, and then, just maybe not the right fit, for the company. But retaining them, I think they see how we treat our people, how we like to take care of our people. We invest in them, whether it be through benefits, whether it be through profit sharing that we do, bonuses, those types of things. So, and then we like to get together and do things. We're a family here, and oddly enough, we all like to get together and hang out. So we do events, those types of things, and that, I believe, is built a culture and a team environment where people they like what's going on here. We have open dialogue about things that are going on that they need help with, and we address those. And I think addressing those right away, instead of saying, okay, yeah, we'll get to them, type of thing, which is what typically you see in corporate America. So that's one of the things we walked away from, going, we want the input of our people, and we want to address the input of our people to make sure that they feel that their input is heard and taken care of. As far as bringing new folks in, word of mouth's been great, so our team is singing the praises, thankfully, of the work that we've put in and how we treat them. The challenge is we got to make sure that we don't empty our sub base, because a lot of our subs are seeing how happy our guys and gals are when they're out on sites, and they've asked a lot of questions. And we're like, well, listen, we respect, the relationship that we have with you. We understand that. We just want to make sure that we're not going to step on any toes. But also, even outside of that, we've got a few folks that we've brought in that have graduated college. So they started in the field with us. They're going back, they're speaking to people that they knew. They're talking to people that they were in classes with. So when they were back in school. So that's also helped with the recruiting side of things.
I'd say one of the other things that makes us really attractive is when we purchased the company, we knew that about 90% of the people that were there were going to retire within the next 5 years. So as we are talking to people and bringing people on, there's a lot of room for growth. You know, a lot of the guys that we want to bring in at a project management level, we've started out as a site superintendent and said, just do a job, right? Do a job in the field, get a feel for it. We'll move you up, you know, and here's what your career path could be, you know, especially as we continue to grow. That's going to open up more levels across multiple sectors. So I feel like we're very attractive when it comes to growth opportunity and growing your career and still having kind of that family feeling, right? Like we try to treat everybody like their family and get to know what they're doing and what's going on in their lives. And we've become very dog friendly, as you know. A lot of people bring their dogs into the office. So, you know, it's kind of a fun culture now.
That's awesome. You mentioned growth and the opportunity for people to grow. Chad, earlier you mentioned that when you got pushed into a leadership position, you weren't ready. So how do you know when a team, if they're on the actual leadership team or if they're just getting put in a position to lead others? How do you got to hide that?
Yeah. So I'll just use an example we just most recently had. So we hired an individual that had graduated a few years ago from Purdue University here in Indiana, construction management major. He went to work as a PM right out of school with another company. Got some valuable experience. He was traveling. He was doing projects in different states. And he got to the point where he just wanted to come back to Indiana. It just so happens he's related to one of the other folks that work here. So it was an easy match as far as, you know, we knew what kind of person he was just from knowing him previously. We knew, you know, him. We ran into him at career fairs at Purdue prior to him graduating. So we got to know him a little bit in conversation there. He came on board. We asked him to start in the field. I said that the big thing we want you to understand is, you know, how our customers operate, what kind of projects that we work on, and then what our process is. So he came in, he ran a couple of projects. It was clear that he could wrap his head around things and evolve very quickly. And he started doing project management things to assist his project manager in those roles, and being able to see his progression and what he wanted to do made it a quick conversation when we were like, okay, how would you approach this, or how would you handle this, or what would your process be around this as it relates to project management? And it aligned exactly with what we were looking for. So he moved inside very quickly, and he's been great. You know, he's really a sponge. He wants to learn. He's extremely knowledgeable. He connects well with our customers. He connects well with the guys in the field. You know, it's one of those things we need to see the evolution of their skills, like building, and their appetite for that growth. But I will say not all of them have been perfect. We've moved certain folks into roles that we thought would be a good fit based on their experience and knowledge. And it didn't work out the way we thought. But we knew that they were the right person for this company, and we had to make sure we got them back into the right role, which wasn't even the role they were previously in. So we ended up getting them somewhere else within the organization. So not every move is going to be perfect. You try to assess, you know, what their strengths are, what their areas of opportunity are, you know, what they want to do. You know, one of the things we do with our interns is we bring them in and we give them, you know, access to all parts of the business, no matter, you know, what they're going to school for in say construction management. They can spend some time in the field. They spend time in the office. They spend time with different individuals within the office. So trying to really give them exposure to understand who we are, what each function of the business is, and how it supports each other and works together. And we've had folks just say, I want to do that, you know, because I've had the hands-on experience. And here's how I believe I can do that. I don't know, Staci, you have anything to add as far as
I would just say
moving
one of the other things that we just recently did was joined a community, kind of an HR community here in Indianapolis, where they offer leadership training. So trying to like look down our path, look into the future and figure out what's our organization going to look like? Who are our potential leaders? Who are people managers right now that could just have never maybe had any kind of leadership development or anything like that. So that's kind of, we've got one person going through right now, kind of as the pilot to see if we like the program. But I think that's one of the things that we need to do. You can't just expect somebody to wake up and go, hey, I feel like being a good leader today, right? Like they have to see other good leaders. They have to have good mentors. They've got to have some training. And I think there's nothing better than when you sit at a table with people from other organizations and you're like, wow, they're this is a pharmaceutical sales rep and she's got the same issues, I'm trying to lead people. She's trying to lead people, right? Like I think every industry has to pour into people in order to move forward, because we're not going to be anything unless we have good people that can show our core values, kind of lead by example, and share that across the organization.
So your investment in people, I mean, you're looking a lot into the investment in people, but I think you're forced to because you knew that there's sort of a ticking time bomb of within 5 years, you're going to have not necessarily a mass exodus, but you're going to have an exodus of people over the next 5 years, right? So what I also heard is that you were on paper. Now, the thing that I recognize and understand about the younger generation is that paper isn't really a thing for the younger generation. Did you have to make any type of technology investments to maybe help attract? I mean, was it even like part of the consideration of, well, if we don't do this, then we can't attract the right people?
Yeah, I think that
And what
was
did you do?
huge. Yeah, that was early on. I came from an organization, that's what we were doing. It was all about technology, making things easier. It drives me crazy continually now. We still, we're making baby steps in a lot of ways, but like even now we still like handwrite time cards and send them in, right? Like, so there's things like that. But getting the guys were handwriting reports in the field. And I just, from my perspective, I'm like, there's so many easier ways to do this. Right. And me being the naive person, when it comes to implementing this, we purchased some software to make their lives easier in the field, and, heads spun around when we handed them an iPad and they're like, what's that? Like, I'm not using this, Yeah, we had some hurdles early on. We've got, everybody's doing daily reports. And if you would have told me, when we purchased 2.5 years ago, when we purchased this solution, at the time, I'm like, I don't know that we're ever going to get everybody doing daily reports, but now some of them are asking for it. We do have some younger guys that have come on and they are looking for technology. They're the ones pushing us now saying, well, I see this is a function and this is like, let's do this. Let's implement this. And I'm like, this is another one. Like you got a baby step, right? You got to slow down and make sure that what you're rolling out to people that may be a little bit technology resistant, it has to work, right? So we can't just full bore go forward with everything, but it's been kind of a nice shift. But yeah, early on, a lot of things. We like to laugh, the first time our estimator came and he was like really concerned about asking me for additional graph paper. And I'm like, whatever you need to do your job, I'm like, all right. He might not be one that's ever going to do estimates or takeoffs or anything online, but, he does a great job and he has his way of doing it. But the next generation, coming in, they're like, what do you mean you don't have a software that does this? We should be able to do this all online. I'm like, we do. We just haven't had anybody that's really dug into it. So yeah, it's been a fun challenge there.
Well, I mean, with what type of so the iPads was an investment. Did you do any other type of technology investments with the company?
Everything was server based. So we've all gone to the cloud now so that people can work remotely a lot easier when we have snow days, or it just makes sense, right? I think that was the one thing COVID taught everybody is like, you can work from home and be efficient and things like that. So we've enabled a lot of that. So iPads, laptops, and then a lot of technology. We upgraded our software system. We purchased a project management system to help with communication between the office and the field. And then we've got a couple of different solutions that we're using for estimating and subcontractor solicitation and things like that. So we've done a lot when it comes to that.
The cloud, congratulations.
Thanks.
You are one of the few construction companies, especially on the smaller side, that has probably made the switch all the way to 100%. So good for you guys for thinking about that and going that direction.
Yeah.
I want to go back real quick because of paper. And I hate going back to this, but it's just the easiest example. Chad, you touched upon it a little bit, which is the adoption of going in a new direction. Okay. And I want your perspective, both of you, I want your perspective on how easy is it, or hard, how easy is it to move people into a different direction, whether it's process or technology? And what do you actually have to do to make that successful?
You want to go first, Staci?
Change is hard.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, change is hard for everyone. I love change, I do, but it's really easy to fall back into your own old ways of doing things, right? So kind of like I talked with, about with their one project management solution. I think you have to be very systematic in the way that you do it. You have to do it slowly. You have to hold people accountable. And sometimes you have to take a step back and review what you're doing. Like, we're trying this, we're doing it. Does it make sense? Right? Is it making sense for everyone? And I think it's really easy to say, this is the way we're going to do it. Right? But bringing people together and trying to get them to say, if we've got this, how do we do it? Right now we have a bit of a process. Like, let's relook at the process. Where's this process hurt you? Where does it help you? How do we change that? Is it your responsibility? So I think, holding people accountable as much as you can, but once you see like people are falling back into the old ways, you have to step back and start to look at some of the processes that you put in place and get their input, right? Because they feel a sense of ownership when they're buying into the process and the changes that you're making.
Okay. And Chad?
Yeah, it's tough to break that muscle memory, right? So, I mean, we all have different things that we're used to doing, and we like to do them a certain way. So putting that change in, a lot of times what I think has helped us get people to adopt a little bit better is tell them why. So this is why we want to do it. This is what we think it's going to do for us. We want to be able to do more with the same group of people that we have here. And we think, it'll make you more efficient. It'll free up more of your time. We try to give them all the benefits of why we believe that we need to move to a different solution or a software or a process. But telling them the why and then what the benefit would be out of that, I think, has been key for the adoption of that. And we've got, people that they've wrapped their arms around it and they're trying, and they may not be the most tech savvy, but by God, they're trying, and we appreciate that. Then we've, to Staci's point, we've got some folks that we brought in that are right out of school and they're pushing for more. And then we've got, ones that, you put the iPad in their hand and they're, to Staci's point, their head spun around and we're like, it's a big phone. It's all it is. It's just a big phone, so, and then that changed things, like you still can, hit the little microphone and you can talk to it and it'll record exactly what you say. So you don't have to peck your report in. You can verbally put it in, and they were like, oh, well, that's even easier, so, giving them, just different little tricks there. But I really think that what's helped us get that adoption to where we are today is telling them the why and then what the potential benefit for them would be.
Nice. So some great insights. Look, we would love to be asking you questions and having you tell stories all day and afternoon, because I'm sure there's 1,000,001 of them. However, our time has kind of come up, which means Justin's got to give you our last question.
Yes, we love this question. If you could go back 20 years, what advice would you give yourself? 2006, and whoever can go first, and then the second will follow.
Ladies first.
Sorry, my screen froze for a second.
What a gentleman.
I was hoping you were talking. What advice would I give myself 20 years ago? I would say,
Yep.
Look for opportunities earlier to do things for yourself, right? Don't stay tied to corporate America. I think, Chad said it earlier, it's hard to walk away. You've got careers, and time and retirement and all these things that are invested in corporation. It was a big leap of faith that we took when we made the change. And I wish we would have thought to have been doing that 20 years ago, looking for the opportunities, because they're out there, but you don't know what you don't know. So I think just trying to maybe do some research on our own and finding something like this would have been a lot more exciting even then.
Nice.
Yeah, I would say to kind of build upon that. Yeah, obviously dive in, find something that you want to be doing or find something that you love to do. That would be my thing. I mean, I enjoyed what I did in the past, but did I love it? And did I live for it every day? No. Now I do. So if you feel very passionate about something or you have an interest or a desire, going back 20 years, I wish I would have said, I want to do this and I want to, work on my skills. I want to, be a better leader. I want to, do all these different things, but you got to invest in yourself to do a lot of that, right? Because a lot of that doesn't come naturally. You've got to work on it. You've got to think through it. It's the practice and upskilling yourself to be able to grow as an individual. It's finding something that you love. And I love doing this. I had no idea how much I loved construction. I knew growing up as a kid, working in my grandfather's basement in Southern Indiana, building little toys and stuff, that just the time that I spent with him, and he helped me, learn how to repair lawnmowers and stuff like that. So just working with my hands, I had no idea how much I loved those types of things until you get back in it and you're on site and you're seeing, something being built and how quickly it can be built and how well it can be built. And the people that all go into it from every trade, all your MEPs and all the other trades that are out there, they're great people. And just, being able to go back 20 years and saying, this is what I really enjoy and love, that's what I would have done, or I would tell myself, that's where you need to focus.
Great advice. Find your purpose, your passion, right?
Your purpose.
Attack it every day. That's awesome. This has been a ton of fun. If somebody wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah. So you can reach out through the website. The website would be pbcgc.com. We have a place to reach out through there, or, you can give us a call, and we'll be happy to talk to you. Our number here is 317-875-0750.
Awesome. And is there anything else you'd like to tell the people before we say our goodbyes?
If they have an opportunity to talk to you two, I would highly recommend it because you guys are great.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Little plug for the show.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, little plug for the show. I mean, you guys are great. It's been great learning from you and talking to you. Yeah. Your experiences, following you both on LinkedIn and seeing what your passions are and what you do. So that's just not this, but, all the other things, snowboarding, Justin, I just learned that about you today. So you guys are great. So I'd recommend anybody that has the opportunity, make sure to get to know you too.
Well, we appreciate
Thank you.
that.
That is very, very, very kind. That's amazing. Thank you so much. I'm blushing now. This is you are the pretty face. That's so true, Staci. You were spot on.
I hear
there.
it all
Good
the
Lord.
time. All the time.
Now I'm blushing, Justin.
This has been a ton of fun. Listeners, I hope you had just as good a time as we did. Until next time, adios.
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 Thanks for listening to Building Scale. To help us reach even more people, please share this episode with a friend, a colleague, or on social media.
Remember, the 3 pillars of scaling a business are people, process, and technology.
And our mission is to help the AEC industry protect itself by making technology easy.
So if you think your company's technology pillar could use some improvement, book a call with us to see how we can help maximize your IT and cybersecurity strategy. Just go to buildingscale.net/help.
And until next time,
Keep building scale.
Scale.